So welcome to the first episode of the podcast. Today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, growth in the business, mindset, having boots on the ground day to day, and how to overcome certain challenges. Jay is a CEO of Merge Media marketing company in Guelph. And ironically, he actually lives in my hometown. We met at BizCon last year and the year before. And he's been a keynote speaker at BizCon for a couple of years. And I've just really liked your approach to actual, marketing and how you're kind of really on top of the changes that are happening. And I think you just have a really interesting mind. And I also think it's really interesting to live in my hometown.
I didn't know Fergus is your actual hometown.
Yeah, that's right.
Fergus, really?
Yeah.
You grew up there as well, eh?
Yeah, so I was there till I was 18, and then I moved to Sault Ste. Marie for college.
Oh, wow. So how was it like, because I got 3 kids,
Yeah.
all growing up in Fergus.
Yeah.
Honestly, what was it like growing up in Fergus?
It was interesting. So,
that's a good word to use. I'm very interested in hearing why you said interesting.
Yeah. So it was a lot different than it is now. So for example, Elora was not as built up as it is now. And it was super, it was really different to have that, like all the growth in Elora and seeing all that. Like we really didn't have any of that growing up. So it was like, you were kind of just plugged in, all of my friends were playing sports. I was skateboarding at the locals, like at literally like Center Wellington skate park. It was good. And like, it was a good time because I think we had the opportunity to experience small town vibes. Like when I was growing up, I was still playing outside with my friends. I was still doing that sort of thing. And then like, obviously like skateboarding as much as I physically could. And then really just like in high school too, like all of the parties were at farms and like bush parties like that too. So it was really a unique experience. I remember when I moved up to Sault Ste. Marie, having those conversations about like, what was high school like with my friends? Their experiences were a lot different than mine. And I was just...
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Brampton, right? So definitely not a small town.
So that's Troy. Yeah.
Brampton as well. Yeah. But I'm getting those like I almost look at Fergus as like circa Brampton 1993. It's on the cusp of like growing and expanding. And they just had the basically what they're doing behind Sportsplex. I don't know if you know this, but they're turning it into a bunch of sports fields because they bought all the farmland next to the Sportsplex.
I know they were trying to do that for a long time. And even so, if you know where JD Hogarth is, there's all subdivisions there now.
Yep.
But when I was growing up, there was one guy who had a farm.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And forever they were trying to get the deeds to the land.
Yeah.
And he just was like, it's so stubborn about it, which I'm like, that's fair game, right? That's fair game.
Yeah, it's exciting having kids growing up in the area. So you have like turning that into like a soccer, rugby. My kids all play rugby, so turning into like a winterized sort of rugby soccer facility there apparently, and probably add a couple more pads as well for hockey, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love Fergus. I love it. We ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. So that honestly like leads me to my next point is take me back to when you were growing up. I know you were playing in bands, you were doing some music. Take me back to that moment and kind of what was your early 20s like, and like where were you in your mind, and where were you living in your mind and doing music, and how has art played an aspect in your life?
Yeah. So, I went to university out in Halifax, and I did a lot of hip hop stuff back in the day. So I used to do performances. I loved the personal branding before personal branding was personal branding type of thing, right? Yep. It was, going down to the local Gorsebrook, the local pub, and performing there. And I loved it. And then after that, I decided I didn't want to settle down. I wanted to travel. So I packed my bags, went to Japan, got a gig teaching English, and, lived there for basically planned on staying for one turned into 4 because I met some bandmates, started a band. Yeah. And through that whole experience of playing music, I really did have an epiphany because I was a terrible singer. Really bad. And I didn't realize that till the first time I was in the studio recording my voice and hearing that crisp.
You heard it raw.
Yeah, I heard it raw. And I'm just like, wow, I am a terrible singer. Because prior to that, I'd be singing at pubs and venues with the overwhelming sound of the instruments behind me would drown out my voice, right? And I was a bit of a screamer. And it was from that point forward, I'm like, wow, I suck at singing. But wow, people are coming to our shows and they love watching our music. and they love buying our albums. And wow, we just did a tour of Japan. So
Yeah.
I must be a pretty good marketer. So it was through that experience, I was like, man, I got to go all in on this marketing thing. So that was really, to answer your question, that was kind of, my point of not just like creativity, but loving the fact that I liked getting a new set of ears to hear my music.
Yeah.
Which for me, that was kind of thrilling. So that's marketing. I didn't know it at the time, but that was marketing. I never took it in school. I took psychology in university.
Nice.
But, through that experience, it was like, wow, marketing is my calling. And when I came back to Canada, I started an online radio station promoting underground music, trying to give them new ears to be heard.
That's awesome.
And then from that, it
Can
evolved.
you still find that online?
The old online radio station.
Yeah.
It was done through a platform called Live 365, which I think
I've heard of that.
Yeah, I think I used to love that. Just getting new music, people sending me music.
Yeah.
We're actually on the air at CFRU 93.3 University of Guelph Radio. We had our radio show there as well.
That's awesome.
And we just love promoting underground music. And I was done with music by that time.
Yeah.
So it was just like I like promoting other music.
How old were you at that time? Were you starting a family yet, or were you?
No, not yet. I was 27, 28 at the time.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was really, kind of fixated on the entrepreneur thing, right? Like, so it was called Jamsterdam Radio. And I loved getting new ears to listen to the music, helping other artists be heard. But I realized through that entire experience, there's no money in underground music. So it was very difficult to make, as an entrepreneur, to make money out of this endeavor. But at my last job, when I was employed, the CEO and owner of that company approached me, and he saw the passion I had for Jamsterdam Radio.
Yeah.
So he said to me, Jay, how would you like to work on Jamsterdam as a part of your job? And I said,
that's awesome.
That's a dream.
Yeah, that's a dream.
So he actually bought it from me.
Wow.
He paid me $10,000. It was making nothing at the time. I said, sure, I'll take the $10,000 and let's try to make something of it.
So what did the company actually look like? Was it like an LLC, or was it just a sole prop? Like, did you have any kind of like behind the scenes of that, or was it just like a cash deal?
Yeah, it's pretty. So that specific company is a digital firm in Toronto on the Esplanade at the time, and it was small. I was the first employee hired with that firm, and now that firm helped grow that firm to $1 million a month business.
Wow.
And they've evolved since. I'm still good friends with them today. And it was a great opportunity that owner gave me by seeing the passion I had by working on that project in my spare time to be like, hey, look, how about you work on that as a part of work time and I'll pay you for it.
That's awesome.
And that is a great opportunity. And that's what, I mean, a lot of owners of businesses should empower their employees to do things like that. You know what I mean? Especially if, as a business owner, if you see a monetary opportunity there by a passion that somebody's doing, helping support them, you know, with money, with, even allowing them to use some of their work time to work on it, that is a great opportunity for any employee.
Yeah, I completely agree. So what does that bring you up into your life? Were you 32, 33, or where were you at in your stage?
Yeah, so I was 28 years old when I decided that I had to throw in the towel on the music career because I didn't get signed by a label, and that was my thing. And gonna get signed by the time I'm 28. Never happened. So from there, I came back and I worked in a couple jobs with big private companies like Cargill, which is a huge meat producer.
Were you doing marketing as well, or were you?
No, I was doing sales.
Sales.
So I was doing sales, and I was working on the floor with with a bunch of older guys that love selling steak. They love selling meat. I was right next to the slaughterhouse, and it would, literally the cows would get cut, and we'd be selling the meat to the likes of like steakhouses and Sobeys and Cisco and all this type of stuff. But that experience was really good because I really learned the grind then, because these guys
100%.
would be there at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, you learn like a proper sales cycle too.
Exactly. Proper sales cycle, nurturing relationships, sales 101 pretty much.
Yeah.
And I was there for, about almost 4 years when I came back from Japan. And then that's when I started getting into digital.
Yeah. So talk to me about that early stage at Merged, and was it called Merged back then? Like, who was with you? What was the team? What was the bootstrap like?
Yeah. So it was back in late 2015 when, I was kind of tired with the company I was working with. I was the first employee hired. As more people became hired, I was, my commission started being less and less. So it kind of motivated me to be like, hey, look, I want to be the guy that runs the business. I don't want to be the guy coming in and watching the boss come less and less to work and spending more time on the golf course. So I'm like, hey, look, I want to be that guy.
And you saw that through like your sales experience.
100%. Yeah, 100%. So
I think you need that. You know what I mean? Like, I think, and it's the same conversation with me and Troy. Me and Troy, you're seeing a very bootstrap version of our company now. And hopefully, I'm 27, right? So exactly 5-6 years from now, I hope it's way bigger and way different than it is now. But it's really fun to live in it right now, because it's like we can really make the changes, we can really do the things that we want to do every day. And I think you need those like opportunities of working for other companies, doing it yourself, freelancing, trying to make a living, and then it turns into something and you're like, holy shit, there's really no capacity for what I can do here.
I wish I was 27 when I started this journey in entrepreneurship, because, at 27, you know what I was fixated on? I was fixated on like the 27 club, which is not a good club you want to be in, right? Like I was in a rock band at the time, you know, in Japan, partying a lot, and I wasn't really, I wasn't focused on actual business, because at the time when you're living in the moment, it's like, oh, the goal is to get signed. So there's a grind.
You're just physically doing like what you really, really want to do in that moment every day. And music is so pure, right? Like you're chasing it every single day, and like making sure that you're just honing your craft. You're just putting out the next show, the next show, the next show. Yeah,
exactly. And that's all and we were getting constant gigs and loving life. And we thought the light at the end of that tunnel was to get signed by a label. And, and that day never came. I actually wrote a song about not giving up. And ironically, awesome. I did give up, but on that specific dream. But that did motivate me to keep going in that next endeavor that I did. And after that, and that really motivated me to, to get into the business now. When it's 2015, bootstrapped. It's myself and my brother-in-law was the original investor in the company. So I was a sweat equity, and he was putting down the money to get the business off the ground.
So walk me through more kind of closer to that as well. What were you guys actually fulfilling on? What was the offer? And did you have a small fulfillment team? And like, was it just Jay working? Because I know you talked about the last car in the parking lot club.
That's it, the EPLG, empty parking lot grind, which is an abbreviation. We when we had a team there at that company, it was a big thing. We can get into that in a bit.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah.
But to go back, the company's called Fresh Crowd. It was called Fresh Crowd.
When you started it. So
when I started it. Yeah. Social media agency, bringing you a fresh crowd of people.
Love you know
what I mean? That was it.
That's super slick.
Yeah. And it was good.
2015 as well.
2015, we paid a company, I think it was called Brand Bucket or something like that.
Cool.
$5,000 for a logo.
And were you living in Brampton at the time as well?
Oakville. I was living in Oakville at the time. And from there, I started that business doing everything. Like going out there on the streets, knocking on doors, just trying to get anybody to listen to me about social media management. Because at the time, 2015, 2016, social media management was still cutting edge.
Yes.
It's like, oh, that's something new. I'll throw some money at that.
Yeah.
I can remember my first client. It was Colossus Greek Tavern, downtown Oakville. And the guy's name's Manny. I remember I went there probably 2 or 3 times before I actually caught Manny. I ended up sitting down with him. It must have been about 2 or 3 hours, just talking to him about life, about my business. And he was obviously trying to feel me out. And from that, after 3 hours and a handful of emails, he said, fine, I'll do it. $199 per month for daily social media posting plus photography. Okay. That was the deal. But I had to get this business off the ground. He got a steal out of that.
Did you guys do like a strict retainer client? Like, was it like 6 month,
no,
3 month, or was
month to month, 30-day notice, month to month, 30-day notice. And that was it. It was a great deal for him. Yeah. He stayed around for about 2 or 3 years.
That's
after
awesome,
that,
dude.
which was cool.
That's amazing.
But mind you, I mean, his price never increased either, right? So he had a steal. Like nowadays, daily posting and content on site, like put a couple zeros on that price, or at least a zero on that price, right? So it's but I learned early on, like the grind. I really do. I think that was the most important part of my entire journey as an entrepreneur, was that first 6 months of starting that business, going door to door, doing the sales, selling places like Colossus Greek Tavern, and then going in there and doing the content, coming up with the strategy, coming up with the reporting, doing the Facebook ads.
And you were building everything as you needed it, like everything. All the SOPs, all the reporting, like.
So my brother-in-law was putting the money down, but he was also a great. My brother-in-law Tyler was also a great organizer. He's a really good COO.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
he can see big picture.
He can see big picture.
That's awesome.
He's the one putting together the spreadsheets. He's a spreadsheet geek. That's his lane, and he stayed in it. And I was the guy that was just out there grinding, right?
Cool. Yeah.
So doing all the jobs within the business, understanding the business.
Yeah.
And I can remember.
How did you actually manage that? Like, if you were the one posting and doing it and shooting it and doing the fulfillment and sales, like.
Yeah. So is, every day it was up, it was getting in my car, and I'd go to a plaza that had a bunch of stores in it, or restaurants. But let me go back, because I can remember my sixth client.
Yeah, please.
My sixth client was a restaurant shawarma chain called Osmos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most people, if you're in the GTA or Ontario area, will be familiar with Osmos. Ben Osmo, who's Sam Osmo, the founder's son. I sat in his office one day and talked to him about strategy. He entertained the meeting, and it was a great meeting. And he gave me a shot. And at the time, they were at 20 franchises. We worked with them for almost 3 years. They got to about 55 locations when we were done working with them, but they outgrew my agency. Yeah. Right? They outgrew my agency that was doing all their social media posting and ads for an agency that could get them the Toronto Raptors, the Team Canada soccer team, and Lamborghinis. Yeah. I said to Ben, I can't get you that stuff. I'm sorry. Yeah. You outgrew me, which is a great thing for an agency when you have a client that outgrows you.
And that's kind of like, that's almost maybe the goal for agencies, right? Like you want to get them in a certain threshold and then grow them. Because I know that's one of your huge case studies. That's one of your kind of milestones in the career.
It was great because it was Ben gave a letter of recommendation. I did all the things right. He learned, and I showed him the proof of social media being a great asset for growing that business, and it really proved the concept for him, or for a lot of businesses that see like, wow, this investment in the social media it encourages businesses to go and hire their own social media person, right? Because they see it does work on a smaller scale. This is back in 2016. Yeah. But I would use that Osmos example for that client and piggyback on it. What I mean is, any plaza that had an Osmos in it, I would go door to door to every single store in that plaza and say, hey, look, those Osmos guys over there? Yeah. I do all their social media. Yeah. I'll do your social media. Yeah. And awesome. It will at least get me a conversation.
Absolutely.
Right. And then from there, that's how I really grew the business to 100 clients in a year. So,
wow. So it was just restaurants at the start.
A lot of restaurants. At one point, actually, here in Burlington, we worked with almost every restaurant on Walker's Line.
That's awesome.
Every one, like Russ Bistro, The Judge. We had there's a bunch of Greek. I can't even tell you, like they've changed names as well. A bunch of them.
Free food for the rest of your life now, or like what's going on?
Because our service was we were so cheap. It was very cheap at the time. Yeah. So we would say, hey, we'll come in there and do a photo shoot. Feed us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then that way there we get to build a rapport with the client. Yeah. And typically, anytime we do a shoot, it would retain the client for a super long time.
Absolutely.
We weren't just working with restaurants. We're working with service-based businesses. A lot of brick and mortars at the time. Yeah. Right. And then fast forward, after that whole thing with Fresh Crowd, we had a sales team, and we did the EPLG, which is the empty parking lot grind.
Take me to the growth of that. So you were 1 to 2 people at the start, grew a sales team. Good. Yeah. Like, let's talk about like all the kind of the changes in the business. Okay, 3 to 5 employees, 5 to 10 employees, 11, wherever you're at now.
Yeah. So I'll tell you our first employee, Dave, who's still with me today.
Yeah, love Dave.
This is back in 2016. I remember this because my wife was, and just to go back for a second, before I think this is important as well, because before I actually started Fresh Crowd, I hit this threshold where I parted ways with my last company, and I had a decision to make because I got offered a job paying me 6 figures for another digital firm similar to my last company in Toronto. Yep. Okay. And then at that same time, I was like, well, I have this opportunity to start my own business. Eating shit. Yeah. Eating shit for who knows how long. Yep. Who knows if it's even going to work. Yeah. So I was at the crossroads. Do I take the job or do I start my business and my entrepreneurial journey? Yeah. So I asked my wife. I said, hey, look, I can either go and take this job, making 6 figures, or I can start my business. Yeah. And she said, well, you got to go and start your business, right? You'll be resentful if you don't go and start your business. Yeah. I said, all right, done. I'm going to go start my business. And she says, oh, wait, but by the way, I'm pregnant with our second child. So I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, I'm going to take the job. I'm going to take that job. This is stupid, right? Yeah. Like, why wouldn't I just go take that job, right? It's security. Yeah. She's like, nope, you'll be resentful. You got to go and make it happen.
What does your wife do?
She worked for Chorus doing some sales coordination stuff, selling TV commercials and stuff like that. Yeah. And now she works.
Smart lady.
Yeah.
Smart lady.
Yeah. So she and her mother, and this is important too, because her mother was an entrepreneur. She owned a travel agency for 40 years.
Very cool.
So, and I truly believe that if my wife did not have a mother that was an entrepreneur, I'd have a tough time doing this journey that I've been
The
on,
pitch would
the
be
grind.
The pitch would be hard. Yeah.
So hard, because she at least has, empathy for me trying to grind it out, and understanding that I'm not always going to be home for dinner.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be late nights making this happen.
Yeah.
But she was very supportive the entire way
Yeah.
in that journey. And so when I told her I'm going to start my business, it really did push me, because there was no option. Failure was not an option here.
Yeah. Especially with the circumstances at home.
Right. Exactly.
Like,
having the second child,
Yeah.
on the way,
Yeah.
I had to make this work. Right.
Yeah.
So I busted my ass off, and it was a week before my second child was born, when we hired Dave.
Yeah.
I had to hire somebody. I was by myself. I was on an island. I'm like, I got this baby coming. I need some help.
Yeah.
And that's when we brought Dave in to take care of a lot of the content,
Cool.
content piece.
That's awesome.
And we had more than enough clients for him to take that on.
Yeah.
And he was a godsend. He was amazing,
Yeah.
been amazing, still amazing.
Yeah.
And he's still with me today, doing the digital. So.
Yeah, that's unreal. I've had the opportunity to meet Dave, and we've had some cool conversations. How has his role kind of adapted over the time? And like, is he still, I know he's still stemming the content world, but was he physically shooting it now? Because I know he's doing a lot of the managing now, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Dave's role has changed quite a bit in the last 10 years.
How do you know, as a business owner, what needs to be adapted? And like, how are you deciding, okay, my key player here, it needs to kind of just start changing things up, and I need to start changing things up?
Yeah, I think that's a natural evolution, right?
Yeah.
Because, especially in this space, in the marketing space, in the
Yeah.
digital marketing space, which changes every 6 months. I
Yes.
swear, what we're selling changes every 6 months.
Yeah.
So when you're so used to having to change all the time, you naturally become very nimble.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Dave's position, he's went from managing content to shooting content,
Yeah.
to managing people, creating content,
Yeah.
to doing sales, to operations. He's touched pretty much every job in the business. He's really kind of that utility guy where we
Yeah.
put him where he's needed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to remember to what people's strengths are too, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's good to keep people in a box.
Yeah.
If they're really good at something, keep them there, because sometimes if that box is not solid in terms of what they need to do on a regular basis, people have a tendency to go and do things that they want to do instead of what they need to do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
learned that over time too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's super crucial. And so still kind of expanding on that idea of like the growth stages in the business. So you started with Dave, and then what did you see as a major growth? Because I'll kind of walk you through our company structure too right now. And me and Troy started it, right? So it was just us at the very beginning, and we were literally shooting and editing every project that came in the door. I was handling sales because I was just like, okay, I guess somebody's got to do it, right? So now we have a team of 3 shooters and editors. We're looking into a sales role next, and then looking into some social media coordinator help that way as well. But yeah, it's been an evolution, man. So I can fully empathize with you like there and just getting through it. And for us, we had a really great mentor opportunity in our first year where he taught us, like, you kind of had that conversation like you had with your wife, is like, well, you probably had internally actually, is like, what do I want out of my business and my personal life? And he had that conversation with us. And I think that really, really stuck with us in our first year. And I knew that, for the next 10 years, we're going to be pretty plugged in, but we have to figure out some sort of solution to the scaling, right? Because if we can't physically take on more clients because we're just too busy, then that's going to be a problem that's just going to keep that problem. It's going to kind of plateau forever,
Well, okay, let's talk about that for a second, because one thing I've learned is that sales cure all.
Yes.
No matter what, at the end of the day, sales cure all. So
Yeah.
if you're getting too busy and the cup's overflowing, the
Yeah.
answer to that is easy. Increase your prices.
Yeah.
Increase your prices to what you want them to be.
Yeah.
Supply and demand, simple, right?
Yeah.
But having a sales role in there
Yeah.
is so important,
Yeah.
because as a business owner, that alleviates a lot of stress and sleepless nights, knowing that some work is happening there to generate sales for you.
Yes.
As opposed
Yeah.
to just waiting for that next word of mouth lead to fall in your lap.
Yeah. 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, we always have the faucets on. The taps are always on for marketing, getting leads in the door,
Yeah.
because we always need to keep that engine going,
Yeah.
right? Because if you lose 10 clients tomorrow, you got to be ready to take on 10 more. And it's always got
Exactly.
to be that kind of constant circle, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So kind of take me through. I know. Obviously, you're super plugged in when it comes to AI, and I know you just went on a trip. Tell me about kind of what you're coming back from that trip, and AI being plugged in, and what you would recommend other business owners do now, and what do you think people should be thinking about and looking at?
Yeah, so I mean that is the new shift, right? Especially in digital marketing. And if a digital marketing agency out there is not fully leveraging AI, they're definitely going to fall behind. It's just there's like, let me go back a bit. Merged Media, who's a company that I have now, I merged Fresh Crowd with an SEO company to form Merged Media in 2019. That's important, right? Because historically, Fresh Crowd was a social media agency focused on creative, very creative.
Yep.
Then we lacked the technical aspect, which is where my business partner Todd comes in, who owns that sort of technical expertise with the SEO.
Yeah.
Okay, so having those two married together is really good. Todd's a great business partner, offsets a lot of my strengths, and his strengths offset my weaknesses, right? So it's a good partnership. So when we start talking about AI, that falls really into that technical umbrella, and Todd has went full in on it, where we've developed AI tools and apps that are helping increase efficiencies internally for our business.
Yeah.
Not to replace employees, because that was not the intention out the get.
Right.
The intention was not to, hey, let's build all these AI efficiencies so we can cut our payroll. It really was to enhance output. For example, copywriters. Okay, we didn't fire our copywriters when ChatGPT came into adoption. We told our copywriters, use this to give yourself a superpower.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you can create more content for our clients much faster. Okay. But that's just one of the things, is a time savings aspect.
Yeah.
But what people forget is that the output is way better by using AI.
Yeah.
I don't understand real estate in North Dakota, right? But AI can figure that out for me pretty quickly. So it saves me a lot of time having to research real estate in North Dakota.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or a 65-year-old yoga instructor. I don't know what her pain points are or what she's trying to achieve, you know, but with AI, I can do that.
Yep.
And so can our entire team. So they have the power of AI to help create messaging that resonates better with an audience, which is so important, especially if you're familiar with meta ads. The closer you can marry a message to the person seeing it, the better conversion you're going to get.
Yeah.
So now one of the big things that I'm talking about, I just came back from Prague and Bucharest over in Europe, speaking about humanizing your AI.
Nice.
Which is important.
Were you a keynote, or was this something that you just attended? Nice.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Keynote. And we've done some studies internally. We've had two stories picked up, or two research papers picked up by the Journal of Brand Strategy over in UK. One of those papers was specifically speaking to human AI copy versus AI copy. Human copy versus AI copy. And we tested 4 variables: ChatGPT, Custom GPT, Meta AI, and Candace, who was our best copywriter. And so, but through that testing, we realized that the human copy was creating higher click-through rates and lower cost per lead, and higher lower cost per engagements. And a lot of that derived from the simple fact that when people see human copywriting, there's that human nuance that encourages people to want to click. Like, a human wrote this.
Yeah, you
click.
can feel it.
You can feel it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, overused ChatGPT words like delve, unlock, elevate. Like these kind of words, like these are almost triggers for people when they see those words. It's like,
especially now.
100%. That's AI. Swipe, swipe, swipe. They just know it's AI content.
Yeah.
And people still want that connection of a human. So that's why it's so important to have sort of a hybrid between, using the AI, but ensuring you're having that human oversight to oversee the AI, to ensure it does have that human nuance.
Yeah. At least having like a 1 or 2 passes through it, as like getting some ideas. Like, we generate ideas that way too, but we just take the ideas and then we pick what we like, take what we don't. So that's how I've heard a lot of people using it. Last night we were shooting York University. We were talking about robotics. They were talking about how, with the AI and everything that needs to be involved with, as far as the infrastructure side, how it's affecting the planet, how they're trying to cool everything. Like, they're thinking about it in so many different broad strokes. And it's like, it's really interesting to like see that this is where it is. This is how people are thinking about it. This is how this guy's thinking about it. And then this is how you should use it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, for myself, I'm very fixated on the digital marketing side of it.
Yeah.
But it becomes, there is a problem with it though too, right? There's the AI dependency dilemma, right? You become so fixated on using AI all the time for everything that you stop using your brain and
stop thinking.
I stopped thinking. I had this example. This actually happened to me on a flight. I was flying over to London last year, and I was so used to creating content and content ideas with ChatGPT that when I got onto this flight, I was ready to go, start creating blog content, but the Wi-Fi wasn't working.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi is not working. So what do?
Crushed.
Oh shit. We have to use our brain, right?
Yeah.
A pen and a pad in my brain.
Yeah.
And it was almost felt like it was a good 30 minutes to 45 minutes to try to get out of writer's block, because it was such a behavior that I hadn't done in so long. And it's almost like it's that muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So it was important to continue to always still use that notepad, which I started picking up again.
Yeah.
After that experience, I'm like, I still have to use my notepad, still have to use my brain, and use my brain and use AI to come up with new ideas. One of the best things you can do if you're using AI is have AI ask you questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you ask AI to do something for you, make sure you end that first prompt with, ask me any questions you need to gain more clarity.
Cool.
Okay. And then it will ask you a bunch of questions,
Yeah.
and then it will give you more of a unique output.
Yeah.
Where you have to do that, or even just ask for unobvious answers as well. Giving it that prompt will have AI search a little deeper to get you something that's a little more unique and not so obvious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the questions I wrote down was like, what's the most interesting shift in the last 20 years of marketing? And like, I think AI is in that conversation for sure. But I'd love to hear kind of your opinions on that too. And I think that's kind of what made me want to interview you on this kind of sort of this dynamic is the way you talk about AI, especially at your speaking engagements, is super different than the way I've heard it talked about before. And it's giving like tangible ideas, tangible action plans. And I just think a lot of people are giving a lot of the same advice because they don't really use it that often, or they're not really sure of like how far can I actually take this tool. Where you is like, you've always been really good at giving some practical ideas and advice and being like, this is what I did before, this is the tweaks I made, this is what it gave me after. And it's like, I remember a couple of those moments, I was like, holy shit, this is like really interesting.
It's funny because there's so many AI tools out there that really it's almost like, you know, paralysis by analysis, because there's just so many tools you can try and test, see if they work. And at the end of the day, you spend more time trying to figure out these tools than increasing, you know, or decreasing the amount of time invested in the working, right? So you have to really be selective with the tools that you use. And I'm kind of in my talks, I'm trying to be that guide to people. It's like, hey, look, these are good tools to use. They save me time, and this is the application. Now, I have a school community that I recently started.
That's awesome.
Where I break down tools and I say whether it's worth it or not worth it to invest your time into it. It's not about the money. A lot of these tools are like $10 a month. Yeah. It's the time invested into it, which is more important. You know, one of the most important things I think people really need to do is invest a bit, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Perplexity, whether it's Claude. You know, you have to have a knowledge base to be able to put a lot of input into it to develop that knowledge base. So for example, for me, I use Claude, and I have a knowledge base that possesses my personality type. It possesses all of my transcripts from interviews, transcripts from my podcast. It understands the way I think. I have these 30 questions that I asked myself. I had AI interview me to get the answer to these 30 questions about resilience, past work experience, all this stuff. So the AI possesses that knowledge. So when I go have AI rewrite an email for me, it's doing it using my tone. It's not going to use ChatGPT words. It's not going to use M dashes. It's going to speak like me and the way I speak in interviews like this. So when I send an email over to somebody, they know it's not just AI generated crap. It's actually an email that sounds like it's from me. And this is the future, right? The future is I have a few points. I'm going to jot them down on a piece of paper or jot them down in ChatGPT or Claude, and it's going to spit out what I need it to articulate and send over to somebody.
Yeah, that's awesome. So talk to me more about, I know you were saying at the beginning of the day today is local SEO and AI marketing. Lots of changes happening in local SEO. What would you recommend business owners do, or even people who just, maybe are a restaurant in the area?
Yeah, local SEO is one that's changed. Google has been changing quite a bit. So a lot of tactics that we used to deploy for local SEO no longer apply. So what Google's looking for now is they want more simplified pages. They don't want it to make it look like, a website is just putting up a bunch of blog content for the sake of putting up blog content to try to game the algorithm and be found on Google. Google doesn't want that.
Interesting.
Google actually wants less of that. And they want more clean pages. Authority, positioning yourself as an authority is very important. So your website should be positioning you guys as subject matter experts in videography and production and media. That's what you need to do, because that's going to give that signal to Google You guys are an authority in that.
Mm-hmm.
Also ensuring that you get quality backlinks going to your website, right? From quality sources. It could be local sources such as, what's the newspaper here in Burlington? What is it? The local.
Oh,
That would be a great example of one though, right? Whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But getting like a link back from Nar City or BlogTO, these would all be great for local SEO.
Nice.
Okay, because they're reputable sources. They're not just spammy backlinks from random
saying.
citations.
Yep.
They're legitimate sources that are linking back to your website, which gives Google the indication that you're an authority.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you're trying to do is show Google that you're an authority, truthfully, and not doing any of that bull crap that used to work, like keyword stuffing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really cool shift. And like, I like that because it's more in alignment with reality, right? Like somebody just putting a bunch of words on a website just to have them there just so they pop up is a lot different than somebody who has a really great restaurant and then somebody wrote a couple articles about how amazing this restaurant is.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Or having somebody write content about your restaurant on a blog and things like that. So just by making the simple switch to local SEO, we're able to drive down our pricing for SEO by 33%.
Wow.
Yeah, which is great. And for existing clients, they're also getting more for the same price.
And it's cool because you have enough experience and enough case studies that you can really like look at the data from even 5 or 6 years ago and just be like, here's what we've done, here's what's changing, and look at the cost savings. Like that's probably a really fun conversation for you guys to be having.
Oh, it's an easy conversation to have, right? And then also when you have those type of conversations, if you have an opportunity to drive down prices and be transparent with clients and be like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to keep charging you that amount this month. I'm going to reduce your cost by say $50 or $100. You gain so much trust with a client just by making that simple switch and being transparent and lowering their pricing without them having to ask you for a price reduction.
Exactly. So I kind of want to take another step off of what we were talking about of like the grind and really working hard in the early days. How has your mentality shifted over the last 10, 15 years about really, really grinding hard and then seeing that maybe, what's the term for it? Like seeing there's an exponential growth to it, right? And talk to me about that last car in the parking lot.
Yeah, exactly. So you know where that derived from? The EPLG, empty parking lot grind. This is between the years of like 2016 to 2018. And during that time, Gary Vee was really emerging at the time. And he was a huge proponent of hustle culture at that time. Yeah. So he was like the man. He was our guy, like hustle culture. We had the hustle picture in our office that we'd see every single day, and you were praised for being the last one to leave work that day and take a picture of your car in the parking lot and send it to the chat.
Nice.
EPLG. And there was respect for that. But nowadays it's not the case. And Gary Vee has backpedaled out of that narrative.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
Yeah. So it's like, and really, then Tim Ferriss, a 4-hour work week as well, right? All that sort of stuff. So
Dan Martell, buy your time back.
Yep. Working smart, not hard, right? So, and keep in mind, it really depends on where you're at as well.
Yes.
Like at that point in time, like I said, I just had my second child and I was really motivated to work late to make this business work. Right? There's something to be said for that.
Absolutely.
Now, you get to a certain point throughout this journey where you're established, like we're coming into year 10 of our business. And now I don't have to do that as much anymore. Really, the emphasis now is building connections with people, right? Building relationships. I mean, the best business we ever get is referral business.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah. It's 90%. Is like 90% of most businesses operate on referral basis only.
Yeah. So but that took experience for me to really realize that. Like, like it took time to realize, wow, this lead has been with us for 5 years. Where'd that lead come from? Where'd this client come from? Oh, it came from so-and-so referring it 5 years ago. And we also found that when people give you a referral, the leash is much longer with that client. What I mean is, let's say you make a little slip up in the onboarding process. Let's say you don't hit your targets in month 3 or 4. There's a good chance because you're a referral, they're going to stick with you and not hit that, cancel button so quick. Right? Where if you get a lead, say off of Google, it comes in, they're comparing you to a bunch of different businesses. They sign up with you maybe because it's the cheapest, or maybe they saw a nice testimonial or whatever it is. But their leash is always going to be short. And it's almost like clients see buyer's remorse immediately when they sign that dotted line. And it's a matter of you to have a smooth onboarding process to ensure that they don't have that buyer's remorse. But buyer's remorse is more prevalent in the situation when they come to you from a Google ad where they don't know you're not a referral. It's just kind of a cold lead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Realize this over time though, right? From back in the day when I started the business during hustle culture,
Yeah.
we would grab like 100, we have to call 100 businesses a day.
Wow.
I'd be calling 100 businesses, restaurants in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah.
And yes, they have 100 restaurants in Anchorage, Alaska. And I'd be calling them up, cold call,
Yeah.
just trying to get a conversation. Through those 100 calls, maybe we would get 3 demos booked.
Yeah, exactly.
And this was parallel with every single sales rep.
Yeah.
We were wasting so much time trying to do this cold outreach grind
Yeah.
that really what we really needed to lean into was going to more events, building connections, and shaking hands.
100% agree. So yeah, that's super, super awesome that you mentioned that, because the early stages of our business, we had a couple referrals come in that was really beautiful for us, but it was like 300, 400 messages on LinkedIn a week. Like I was just fucking doing
Manual.
Yes.
Good for you.
This is like, I was just fucking doing it. And like, I probably have, 4,000 LinkedIn guys on my sales navigator. And I've probably closed like maybe 20 or 25 at most.
Yeah.
Because it's just a volume game, Like our mentor taught us that, right? He's like, listen, you guys got to make your first 10K a month first. And then you can start to think about anything other than work, right? And then we started to scale slowly. And then he's like, okay, now it makes sense for you to start hiring a couple of people. And then from there, it's just been growth in the hiring and growth with the revenue and just following that stream as it goes.
You know what? It's interesting. You hit on LinkedIn. I mean, you found some success in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like LinkedIn, right? Yep. A lot of activity, generate sales. That's that 100 calls a day game, right?
Yeah.
And I think, for yourself, I think what you're doing right now, the strategy behind podcasting is brilliant, right? Strategy behind, like every business out there needs to have, or at least have some content on a podcast, whether it's their own podcast or another podcast. It's a great opportunity to not just create the content, which is great for social, great for paid ads.
Yeah.
But what's more than that is this, like building that connection with a new person.
Yeah.
Building that connection with another person that, can potentially generate you referrals down the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've recorded 235 episodes of my podcast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I mean, like, and the funny thing is that, yes, we use the content for paid ads. Yes, we use the content for social media. But how many clients have I generated from the podcast guests?
Yeah.
Not so many.
Yeah.
But how many clients have come to me and said to me they've listened to my podcast for 6 months?
Yeah.
And I would leave that sales conversation thinking to myself, wow, that was the easiest sales call I've ever had.
Yeah.
They closed so quickly.
Yeah.
It's because they knew me for 6 months before I knew them.
Exactly. So that's so interesting that you bring that up, because that's the conversation I've been having with like pretty much everybody who's in that world of like, I'm making a little bit of content, but I'm not making enough content. And I'm like, if you're just consistently posting, somebody's going to find your page, they're going to learn about what you do, and then they're going to nurture themselves. They're going to death scroll for like 3 hours of your content.
Yep.
And if you have 3 hours, you have 10 hours, you have 300 hours.
Yep.
They can just like do that forever. And then they're going to come to that conversation and be like, holy shit, I know exactly who Jay is. I know exactly what he does. I know what types of sports he's into. I know where he lives. Like I know his music tastes. I know his food, like all of those things. And it's just like, that's the beauty about content and where you can really take it. And that's kind of the core message that we're trying to get across. And it comes back to the personal branding thing. And I think you are a really great case study of what a personal brand can be. And I think you maybe learned that from Gary Vee. And I think like that's like I still am blown away by Gary, like on a personal note. Like the fact that he was putting out personal brand content in 2011 is like, that's absurd.
It's you hit the nail on the head there, but the good thing about it is it's human content, not AI generated content.
Yes.
It's human content. So those people see my podcast know me as a human.
Yeah.
They're going to see this podcast and know you as a human.
Yeah.
Right. And this
Yeah.
is what's scalable, right?
Yeah.
The human element is
Yeah.
very scalable.
Yeah.
Right. That's why it's so important to be doing this type of thing with content.
Yeah.
Right. Gary Vee, actually, since 2011, he was doing this. That actually motivated us at one point. We hired a full-time videographer internally to follow me around with the camera. She came with me to Tel Aviv. She came with me to Vegas.
Where's that content? Where does it live?
You can check it out on YouTube, Merge Media, Digital Hunter. Yeah, Digital Hunter. We documented the merging of our companies. So she was there the day we all sat both teams around a boardroom table and documented the entire day, snipped it, and put it on our YouTube.
Dude, I love that. That's this type of shit that I love watching, because it's just like, for us, like for myself, my background, my mom worked at a real estate company forever. She was doing the closing books in the real estate, and she worked there from she was 18 till, she retired. And I didn't really have any entrepreneurs in my background. A lot of the guys I grew up in Fergus were trades guys doing blue collar jobs. And then the people who didn't stay went to university, did degrees. And I've always been entrepreneurial. I just didn't really realize what that meant. Like, I was making skateboarding videos with my friends growing up. I was doing that. We went to film school, and I was like, oh, I just didn't want to work for anybody else, because I was doing that freelancing thing. And it's just, I think it's so important for people to put out content, like you were saying, because you really don't know what you don't know. And the capacity to learn in business, especially, is so exponential. It's forever. Like, I have so many books that I have to get to. I constantly meeting really interesting people. And it's just like, oh, I didn't even know that was an aspect to your business. I didn't even know you did that. Or I didn't even know that was possible.
What you're doing, I think what you're doing well right now, there's a couple things that for your business is doing well. A, you're being a sponge, right? That's the most important thing you can be when you're learning a business, trying to grow your business, is absorb everything. You just recited to me like 4 or 5 slides from my presentation. That shows that you're a good listener, right? And second, you're creating content for yourself, positioning yourself as a brand ambassador for your brand and building your personal brand, right? That personal branding piece, which we kind of glazed over there, is so important, because, again, people are always going to want to work with people. And that's just going to, again, help grow your business, because at the end of the day, you're going to get referrals that way, and you're going to close business that way, and you're going to have much easier sales conversations that way, because you're not cold. You're going to be warm.
Well, thanks for that compliment, Jay. That means a lot. It's we're trying to, we're just trying to figure it out as we go, and I think for me, it's just an unlimited interest. I honestly find, and this is why I started this podcast, like, it's genuinely about learning about other people's businesses and what they're doing, what their moments of entry were, what their struggles were growing up through the business. And it just comes from a natural interest, because I just think I'm just really curious about people. What are they doing with their time? Like, I find that super fascinating. But we'll leave on a couple of notes of any recommendations that you think businesses should be doing now. Maybe that's creating content on their phones and posting it. Maybe that's using ChatGPT. What are maybe 2 or 3 ideas that you would really recommend businesses to be doing that maybe they're not thinking about?
Yeah, definitely. So first and foremost, not sleeping on the AI piece in their business is important. I know a lot of businesses out there are kind of like, oh, it's just too much, or we're going to wait till the dust settles on all this AI stuff to see where we land and then see how we can implement it.
I've heard that before too.
By the time you wait, your competitors are already utilizing it and you're being left behind, right? So you have to utilize it. Utilize it for the simple stuff, like, for example, recording every single sales call. Okay.
Yes.
Using platforms like Otter AI to sit there and record it. Get the transcript, right? Use that transcript, put it into a project where everything is consolidated on every conversation you have with a client. For myself, I'm a fractional CMO for some businesses, right? Every one of those businesses has their own Claude project, and has every conversation in there that I've ever had. Every single email goes in there as well. Everything goes into that project. So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, the business is not going to shut down. Somebody's going to be able to hop in there and see my AI for the resort down in Turks and Caicos that I work with, and know everything there is to know about it, and know every conversation I've had about it. And they can just ask a simple question. So internal things like that are going to speed things up are super important. I think people just need to put their heads around the things within their business that can be automated to allow people to, not to shorten payroll, not to let go of people, but to make people's lives easier, make people focus on the things that matter most, which is the human connection. Right. And I'm thinking in about 5 years, that might even be too far out. I think it's going to be like a 3-day work week, man. I think we're going to be spending a lot more time enjoying the things in life, with family, friends, relationships, and we're not going to have to work 40 hours a week. Our brains are so geared towards having to work 40 hours a week, right?
I know. It's a very Western mentality for sure.
It's going to change though. It's going to change the more and more we adopt AI, right? So I think that's one of the big things, is just allowing people to do the things that AI will never replace.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think that was a really great point to end it. Where can people find you? Where would you want people to reach out to you? And then what are you guys looking for in your business right now?
Yep. So right now in our business, we're always looking for businesses that want to get a leg up on their competition with whether it's traffic to their website, new leads, new sales, AI integration. Those are all huge for any businesses out there looking for that service. They can reach out to me. But in addition to that, really, if people want to check me out, they can go to jayhunt.social. That's my website, jayhunt.social. And through that, you can join my school community, where I'm always publishing new courses, AI tools that are working for our business. Also, follow me on socials. I'm pretty active on Instagram.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for the time, man. That was awesome. Any final notes that you mention? Or?
Matt, keep doing what you're doing. This is an awesome podcast. I'm honored to be the first guest on the podcast. So appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes.